Many people today insist that there was no such thing as the Renaissance. That is absurd and typical of the disintegrated view that dominates modern historiography. Hi folks, this is Mr. Powell, the historian and teacher at Knowable World. My topic in this series is, what happened to the power of history? History was once a powerful subject. It was part of the scientific tradition born in ancient Greece that included rational inquiry into the universe and human nature, which began as natural philosophy and ultimately evolved into modern physics. It was part of the Athenian Golden Age in the pursuit of truth that was never abandoned, even in time of war. Later in history, as we'll see in the third installment of this series, it was the key component of a powerful toolkit that allowed the founding fathers to create the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States of America. Today, our focus is on the Renaissance, the second of the Great Awakenings, impelled in part by the power of history. Let us begin with the word Renaissance. It's a French word, meaning rebirth, which was adopted into English, but it was first coined as rinascita, which means the same thing in Italian. As far as we know, the term Renaissance was coined by Giorgio Vasari, circa 1550. He's not exactly famous nowadays compared to his contemporaries, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, but Vasari used to be quite well known in a time when history was valued more highly. He wrote a book called The Lives of the Most Excellent Painters, Sculptors, and Architects. In other words, he wrote a history. Specifically, it was a history of Renaissance art. What Vasari understood, and what has been widely acknowledged, is that the amazing tradition of Greco-Roman art, embodied in such works as the Scabolus, the Winged Victory, the Laocoon, and the Statue of Augustus, had collapsed in the Dark Ages. Sculpture had returned to a rudimentary state. The grandeur, the realism, the beauty of the Greco-Roman way was lost in a miasma of superstition and barbarism known as the Dark Ages. When we look at the stiff figures of that intervening period, we are reminded of the work of the ancient Egyptians, whose frozen, unnatural poses had previously been swept away by the incredible liveliness and dynamism of Greece. Vasari, embodied as a writer of the Renaissance, is another cardinal value that we teach at Knowable World. We call that value historical-mindedness. Historical-mindedness is not merely knowledge of the past. It's not about memorizing names and dates. It's a state of mind. It's the ability to summon the full context of history, to properly assess the status of something, analyze and evaluate it, and ultimately integrate it into one's understanding of the world. This is critical thinking on another level. Historical mindedness takes training. As Aristotle once said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. At Knowable World, when historical instruction begins at the K-2 level, students work their way through the lower elementary classes through the high school, and in some cases, to the advanced history program. Knowable World is a complete curriculum, and it's the only one of its kind from K-12. In it, students are exposed to such a wide range of topics that exhibit universal significance, that they learn to cross-connect their knowledge of cultures and identify patterns and archetypes. A good example is the concept of divine right monarchy. Students learn about Clovis and Charlemagne, the kings of the Franks, who made an alliance with the Catholic Church when studying European history. When studying Islamic history, they study Muhammad and the caliphs, who embodied the idea of Islam's ultimate worldly triumph. And they study the Yamato dynasty in Japan, where the divinity of the emperor was a key ingredient in the stability of the Japanese empire. Yes, we study the dates. We learn that Charlemagne's empire, which we called the failed Frankish Union, lasted from 800 to 43 AD. We learn that Muhammad conquered Arabia, circa 622 to 32 AD. And we learn that Jimmu, the first of the Japanese emperors, is said to have been born to the sun goddess Amaterasu, circa 660 BC. These are anchor facts, as we know them at Knowable World. I've written a blog post about that, and I'll be sure to make a video blog as well, indeed probably many, about that soon. Anchor facts structure our awareness of the past in relation to the present. So we do emphasize them, including the dates. but there aren't many. At Knowable World, we never memorize useless stuff. In the same way, Giorgio Vasari was focused on the great artists of his time. He understood that archetypal figures play a key role in history. The entire Renaissance was based on this kind of historical mindedness. Philosophers who gave it its most fundamental impulse, such as Thomas Aquinas, were acutely aware of the role of Aristotle in shaping the scholastic tradition and how to apply his insights into every aspect of the pursuit of wisdom. The natural scientists were too, scoured Aristotle and ultimately found his specific ideas wanting, and thus struck out on their own to define new ways and means, the very ways and means that fueled the scientific revolution that accompanied the Renaissance, including the Copernican revolution that finally broke the stranglehold of heliocentrism on the stagnant mind of Europe. There were many struggles to break with tradition during the Renaissance, and the work remained incomplete in many aspects, such as in politics, until what is sometimes known as the Enlightenment. But the trend was clear. Many people today insist that there was no such thing as the Renaissance. That is absurd and typical of the disintegrated view that dominates modern historiography. If you can see the big picture that I teach my students at Knowable World, then you can see the Renaissance clear as day. And you learn to appreciate that it brought us to the world today, which is always the proper result. Herodotus knew it in ancient Athens. Giorgio Vasari knew it in Renaissance Italy. And as we will see next time, the founding fathers of America knew it. Everyone that has ever known it was empowered by history to make the world a better place. Isn't it time we embraced the power of history again? At Knowable World we have. And you can too. We're here to help. Reach out to myself and Heather Schwartz, the CEO of Knowable World and a professional homeschooling coach, for solutions to your homeschooling challenges. And stay tuned for the next installment in this series coming soon.